Welcome back to the Pursuit of Progress podcast. In today's episode, we're diving into part two of our brand new series, Conversations We Wish We Would Have Had with Our 20-Year-Old Younger Selves. If you missed part one, make sure you guys check that one out. We went over the first 7 of these conversation talking points with our younger selves. But today, we're going to explore even more lessons that can really help guide you through life's challenges and empower you just to make better choices. So from embracing that gratitude to really recognizing the importance of physical health, these lessons today are not just reflections of our past, but also can be really powerful tools for our future.
Yep.
So whether you're tuning in for the first time or just returning for more wisdom, get ready to reflect, learn, and grow with us. Let's jump right in, start another conversation on the Pursuit of Progress podcast.
Now that is an introduction, and what an awesome introduction. I'm Benjamin Adams. This is Adam Lang with the Pursuit of Progress. And here we go. Last week we went over the first 7. Today we're going to go over the last 8, starting with number 8. And lesson number 8 on advice that I would give my 20-year-old self: choose a partner or spouse with the same values and vision. And I'll just start off here on this one because, in my 20s, I first met my now ex-wife when I was in my early 20s. And where you're at when in your early 20s compared to in your 40s, at least for me, the things that I was focusing on and valuing are completely different. In my 20s, I'm looking at looks, how attractive someone is. Have you ever heard the expression, birds of a feather flock together? But then what about opposites attract? Have you heard that? And here's the reality. Both of those are true. Birds of, you're going to be attracted to someone that has the same values and vision, but you're also going to be attracted to someone that is very, very different. Here's the difference, though. When it comes to a spouse, finding someone that is more different than similar is not a good idea. In my case, almost none of our values, our vision, our behaviors, how we wanted to spend our time, there was almost no similarities. And as our marriage went on, kids got involved. There wasn't a lot of peace because of that. We were really never on the same page with anything. Ended up getting divorced after about being together in, 2018, after about 13 years. At the time, it was very, very difficult, but it's been one of the best things that's ever happened to me because it gave me the opportunity to kind of reset my focus and find someone that is more similar as far as values, vision, how they want to live their life. And let me tell you, there is so much more peace and clarity in that relationship than my prior one. And that's what I want. I value that. I value peace and clarity so much more. And I'm just so thankful for Grace. That's her name. She's my girlfriend. Just so amazing, so supportive. So that would be big advice to, I have 2 great kids from that first marriage, so I'm not necessarily have any regrets there. But now that I'm getting the opportunity to do things differently, I'm definitely taking a different approach.
Yeah, I think especially when you're talking to somebody that's in their early 20s, I think about myself at that age and my values and vision at that time and just how much that changed for myself too, in my 20s and early 30s. So I think this makes you understand why probably a lot of relationships that start at that age maybe don't work out because people are still figuring out who they are and might be going in a different direction from when you were with that person initially. So I think just having a good head on your shoulders and finding somebody else that at least especially has, that same overall value of, just who you want to be, not just today, but in the future, and just finding that other person that also is striving to be, a better person in their later years.
Do you want me to blow your mind really quick with a crazy statistic? My
Let's hear it.
grandparents are both 93 years old, and they were high school sweethearts, got married as teenagers, and they are still together. 75 years married.
They had their 75th already?
They had their 75th. Yeah, can you believe that?
Wow.
I mean, is that like 75th wedding anniversary? I mean, that is like crazy.
Do they even make like anniversary gifts for that? I mean, what do they do at that point?
I think it stops at 50.
I think it does. I don't know if I wonder what percentage of, or just how many people have made it to 75 years married.
I know.
I'm sure it's
I mean,
a very
honestly,
short list.
honestly, seriously.
Let's jump into number 9. So number 9 is control your response. So let me give you guys a little bit of background on this one. You can't control what happens to you, but you can control how you respond. A man by the name of Viktor Frankl said, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space lies our power to choose our response. So let me just say that one more time. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. Inside that
Mhm.
space lies our power to choose our response.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so powerful and impactful. I was scrolling through social media here this past week, and there was this post someone shared, and it was getting hundreds of thousands of likes and comments. And it was a post on relationships, and it said something like this: don't get mad at me because I'm treating you basically how you deserve to be treated based off of how you're treating me. And ultimately, when you have that attitude where you're treating someone as good as they're going to treat you, you're handing over all of your power. And controlling your response is about holding on to that power. You can treat me however you want, but I know who I am. I have certain standards for my behavior, how I lead myself, my family, and regardless of how you treat me, I am still going to be either the professional that I am, the leader of the family that I am. I'm not gonna, respond just because you're a jerk to me doesn't mean I'm gonna respond a certain way. So it's really ultimately about holding on to your power. And I've also learned that it doesn't matter what has happened to me. I'm gonna use that for something good, a positive impact. I'm gonna grow from it. I'm gonna learn from it. And that would be the advice to my 20-year-old self. When I was 20, if someone didn't treat me fairly or if I felt slighted, I'd get angry and I'd get emotional. I mean, have you ever got a text message or an email or maybe someone canceled their plans or they didn't go to the gym when they were supposed to and you're wondering like, what's going on and you feel kind of pissed off. Um Again, holding on to your power, holding on to your peace, you know, so much more impactful than getting, losing control emotionally.
Yeah, I think about the times in my life where I felt the most just uneasy, just, very hectic type living environment. And it's always around the people that don't have that ability to process whatever is coming at them and then respond appropriately. And they just end up
Yeah.
just blowing up and acting completely emotionally and, sometimes maybe completely out of hand. Just those are the most stressful, like living environments I've ever had. And
Mhm.
just don't want to be around those types of people.
Yeah, it's like you're tiptoeing around if you say the wrong thing or if you don't phrase it just right, or maybe you don't have the right body language, like this person's gonna go off on you. That's not what you wanna be around and how you wanna live.
Yep. Well, I know we're both very big proponents of the next lesson. Number 10, exercise daily. So I'm just
Good.
thinking about myself at the age of 20. So 20, what is that? We're like end of freshman year, beginning of sophomore year of college.
Yeah.
So I'm probably, waking up about 11:30 in the morning, probably wearing my pajamas, didn't even brush my teeth, walk up to
Whoa.
the University Hill and got a foot long sub or a Philly cheesesteak, something completely unhealthy. Went back and took a nap, maybe played some video games, maybe had some drinks. Did not go to the gym, did not exercise. And just thinking about how long of a period of time I had in my 20s where I did not prioritize that whatsoever. And just
Mhm.
think I could have had such a different um, outcome in my physical self, just, being a little bit more healthy, being able to do some of these other sports that I've been passionate about doing, maybe at a higher
Yeah.
level if I would have taken a little bit better care of myself in my 20s. So just
Mhm.
exercising daily is not just physical, but also mental. And I
Yeah.
know that Ben, I'm sure you got a few things to add to that.
Yeah, well, you left out the part where you would hire your roommate to go and take your tests for you at CU and go to class.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh,
I would add to that, and the reason you probably didn't exercise every day is because you didn't like it, and that's how I was. I didn't like it, and that's how I used to make my decisions. You know, do I like this or not? Now, how I make my decisions is, do I value this? Does this thing bring me value? And when you start making decisions like that and asking questions, is this thing positive for me? Is it healthy? Is it going to, bring value into my life? I don't care if I like it or not. It's going to bring value into my life. But when you start to value something, well, guess what? You're going to start to like it. And that was the biggest flip for me when it came to exercise. Once I learned to value the exercise, I started to enjoy it more. And then getting up in the morning isn't always so hard. It doesn't mean that it's always easy, but again, you're more on purpose. You're more on mission because this is bringing something positive into your life. So if you can understand the why, and if the why means something more, it's going to allow you to do some of these things you don't want to do. I'm someone that exercises now twice a day. It's like I love exercising now.
Yeah, before we know it, I'm gonna come over and visit you at your home office, and you're gonna be on one of those walking, treadmills with a little laptop stand, just walking while you work.
That's right. Hey, I mean, I have the treadmill in the other room, so I just got to move it in here.
Hey, keep us updated.
All right, well, let's move on to lesson number 11, advice that I would give to my 20-year-old self. Learn to be thankful and give back. Just learning the importance of practicing gratitude and how that can shift your mindset and really enhance your relationships. Not just that, but also your mental health and your income. There was recently a study done by the Greater Good Science Center that shows that giving back creates a ripple effect that benefits both you and your community. And I can tell you right now firsthand, like I was so bad at being thankful and giving back and having gratitude. I just look back on my behavior in my 20s and I just feel like I was just so selfish, all about me. When it came to my parents, my grandparents, not making time for the people that really mattered in my life. And, I would really, this would have to be the top of the list for my 20-year-old self, really learning to give back, value those relationships, give people who deserve the time, give them the time, not follow the crowd and focus on the family and the people that are important in your life.
The only thing I'll add to that is on the learn to be thankful piece, just as like a little exercise, even if you're just to take for the next week, just pick one person each day and just send them a short but very heartfelt text, or you give them a call, you do a voice recording, whatever you feel comfortable with doing, and just reaching out to somebody different every day for a week straight and just seeing what transpires from doing that. It'll literally take you 5 minutes and you'll be amazed at just how uncommon these little acts of being thankful are these days, and just how it really does make you stand out if this is a sales thing, for example, or you're just trying to work some of your sphere that you're trying to, maybe drum up some business from. Same idea here, just find some people that you have at least some working relationship with and just reach out and just explain just tell them about, why you're thankful for them as a friend, as a coworker, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
So,
And, we're so good about expressing the things that we want, or maybe the complaints that we have, or when we're frustrated, we're so eager to voice that. But I think it's so important to just to share that with people. If someone has had a positive impact on your life, let them know that. Tell them that. Call them. Do what you're suggesting. Send them a text or an email. A lot of times it doesn't take that long. Just send a quick text. Another thing that I do is I have a gratitude journal where every day I just write down a couple of things that I'm thankful for. Um, and when you take on that mindset, I mean, just, living here in America, what does that mean? I mean, just by the fact that we're in here in America, having this conversation, we live in what I believe is the greatest nation on earth. We live in, one of the top states in the greatest nation on earth. We live in an incredible city in the greatest state, one of the greatest states in the greatest nation. Like we have, it just goes on, and we have so many opportunities. There's so much abundance all around us. When you travel the world, you get to realize that the rest of the world does not live like this. They don't have these same opportunities. And just driving to your house with our public infrastructure and access to roads and public transport. I mean, a lot of the world does not have that. And so just by the fact that we're here in the United States, in Colorado, having this conversation through a Wi-Fi connection with internet, I mean, we have so much to be thankful for. And that's before I get to my dogs.
yeah, man, I can't really add much to that. Just really just being thankful and making the people around you know that.
Yeah. Well, we got to jump to the break here. We have a word from our sponsors, so let's get to the break. Do you need a real estate team that does more than just close deals? Adam Sells Denver provides expert guidance for buyers, sellers, and investors with personalized strategies tailored to your goals. From start to finish, we're your partners in success. Access free resources today at adamsellsdenver.com or by calling 970-500-0252 to get started today. All right, lesson number 12 on advice that I would give to my 20-year-old self. This was a big one for me. Stop caring about the opinions of others. And man, this is something that I struggled with, not just in my 20s, but also into my 30s. It wasn't until probably like 35, 36, 37 that I really learned to care, or that I really learned to stop caring about the opinions of others. And when you can get there, it is so freeing. When you're constantly worried about what other people think, you're not going to be able to be your true self. You're not going to, your level of authenticity and being your genuine self. I mean, it's just not going to happen. What are your thoughts? Is that something you'd agree with, or have you ever
Yeah,
struggled
definitely.
with that at times? Or
Yeah, definitely. I think that kind of ties back into what we were talking about last week on one of the other points, just about social media and just how it really creates this, highlight reel of people's lives that isn't reality, and just feeling like that just kind of ties into this one. Um,
Mhm.
so
Yeah. Well, let's move on to lesson number 13, become a lifelong learner. And this for me was also, you know, a really, really big one. When I was going to school, graduating from high school, going on to college, I was one of those kids. When I got done with college, I was like, I'm done. I'm never reading another book again. I'm never going to another class. That was my attitude. I was so just, I thought I had worked so hard and I was so entitled. What a mistake. What a mistake. Here's the reality. The reality is you should really start learning at the end of formal education. It's also a poor mindset. The poor rely on formal education only. People that the people who are rich or wealthy, they have an abundance mindset and they're lifelong learners. The day that I started reading daily at your encouragement, that's who I credit that with is you. The day that I became a daily reader, my life changed and it has never been the same.
yeah, I was just pulling up on my computer a stat. I actually thought it was worse than this, but it was what percentage of Americans read a book after high school. And I thought it was something crazy like 8%. Only 8% of people ever complete a book after high school. But here it's saying roughly about 35% of United States adults read at least one book. This is
Mm,
just saying in a
okay.
given year. But
Yeah.
just making a point of how little this is really just focused on in people's lives in this day. Just educating yourself, just continuing education always, always trying to be
Mhm.
better and just learning.
Yeah, and when I'm learning, I feel like I'm growing, and when I'm growing, I feel very good about that. It makes me feel very positive about myself. It's very fulfilling knowing that you're getting better. I used to play the trumpet when I was a little kid, and I would go practice 30 minutes a day because my parents made me, and I also enjoyed it, but they kind of instilled that discipline in me. It was very rewarding to reflect back on where I started playing the trumpet and where I ended, where, I mean, I became a really good trumpet player when I was in junior high. And that's whether you're running, lifting weights, it's fun to see your bench press go up. If you're starting at 100 pounds and then you're 150, then you're 200. It's very fulfilling. When you get faster, when you grow your business, it's fulfilling experiencing growth.
Yeah, the only thing I'll add to that is just learning a little bit more about this trumpet playing. And do you own a trumpet still? And if so, could we get a new intro song to the podcast for season 2 coming very, very soon, everybody? We need a trumpet intro, and just wondering if that might be something you can handle.
I could, yeah. Actually, I own 3 trumpets, and I have them upstairs, and if you'd like, I would, be glad to give you a recital at some point.
Wow. Okay. All right, guys, you heard it here first.
All right. Lesson number 14 on advice that I would give my 20-year-old self. Win the day with a morning routine. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because my attitude, kind of like what you just described, your day was like in college. You getting up at 11:30. Mine was really no different. And now, if I had to get up early for work once I started working in my 20s, of course I would do that. But if you gave me the option, if I did not have to get up for something, I was probably getting up at 11:30. And when you don't win your morning, it's impossible to win the day. That's just the reality. Developing a really healthy, positive morning routine that I can feel good about and that I'm productive and efficient and I can get all those things done that are important to me. When I do those things, I have more confidence, I have more clarity, I have more peace, and it gives me that momentum for the rest of the day. And again, you're someone who's had a very positive influence in my life for that specific role. Being accountability partners every morning at 6 a.m., getting my day started off like that, it just sets the tone for the day. And it's been something that's changed my life.
Yeah, when you win the morning, you get to play on offense for the rest of the day. If you
Yeah.
don't win the morning, you're basically on defense. You're trying to not only catch up from what you probably should have been doing earlier, but also adding to whatever it is that's going on for the rest of the day. It just turns into chaos. Productivity is low. You're probably going to be stressed and just, it's not a good outcome. So just really making that extra effort in the morning pays off throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah. And I'm not perfect with my morning routine. I missed the gym this morning, for example. I missed the gym this morning, for example. But, like when that happened this morning, it always feels good in that moment, sleeping in, instead of getting up. But then how do you feel when you actually get up? It's like, dude, I'm so frustrated with myself, and it's just like, I'm critical of me. And then I didn't go to the gym. So I didn't get to do something that I really valued. I didn't get to do any of the other things in the morning that I value. And then all of a sudden, yeah, I'm playing defense the entire day. Not a fun way to live. It's that, are you living from a place of abundance or are you living from a place of demand? I was having this conversation earlier, and this is what I believe. I believe if you're constantly playing defense and you're living from a place of demand, kind of like playing from behind, like you're describing, it's impossible to have self growth because in order to have self growth, you need to be living from a place of supply and abundance. Be creative. You need to have that peace. And if you don't have that, then you're not going to be able to grow with whatever your focus is.
Yeah, very well said. If you guys are looking for a little book recommendation, or you can even just find it on YouTube, check out "Make Your Bed." It's just a commencement speech by a naval.
Yeah.
I think it's a naval guy. But anyway, just talking about the little mini win you get just by something as easy as making your bed in the morning, and just again though the same idea of just winning the morning, starting on positive notes, on little wins, little successes that you're starting early on in the day.
Yeah, that's so great. I've seen that speech that you're referencing, and I love it. I agree with you. All right, lesson number 15: advice that I would give my 20-year-old self. This is the last one right here. Set outrageous goals, but focus on daily habits. Now, I know this is something that you love because you're always talking about SMART goals. Is this something that you can, relate? I think when I was in my 20s, I loved to have big goals, but I didn't really have plans though on how to get those big goals. And that, I've always believed in goals. I've always believed in having big goals, but what was missing for me was the implementation piece. And how are we going to put that plan together and achieve those big goals?
Yeah, there's a good quote. Most people overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can accomplish in 10 years.
Yeah.
And at the age of, 20 or in your early 20s, just to have that ability to see far enough in the future, like to see that 10-year outlook and have a goal of some sort that you actually stick to for that long period of time, and just be amazed at how far you can get. Just, it's something that I didn't learn until my late 30s.
Mhm.
Just that mindset shift of having a big, hairy, audacious goal. A BHAG is what a lot of entrepreneurial groups use for this phrase or this term. Just having just such a enormous goal, and even though it might seem completely like an overestimation at a short term, give it enough time, and you'd actually be amazed how close you can get to that.
Yeah. It is so amazing, but, with our youth today in 2024, and this is something that I really wanna point out because I just feel like I've observed. I'm an assistant cross country coach at a local high school here, and so I'm around youth a lot, not just at that school, but my kids are in high school and they have friends. One thing, I don't know if you would agree or if you have a comment on this, but I just feel like people now, especially youth and kids, it's almost like the ability to have a big goal, tell me like a crazy goal that you want to achieve, and like the responses that I get when I ask that question, like they're just not. It's like that's like I'm talking about a big goal, something powerful, something exciting, and then the responses that I get, I'm like, that's it. That's your big goal. Like let's have a big freaking vision. You want to change your life, change your family's life, change the generations that come after you. Let's dream like that. It almost seems like though people aren't capable of dreaming big.
Yeah, just kind of a little bit of a tangent, but there's always this conversation of should that type of curriculum be included in schools these days, which I totally think should. But if that's not an option, maybe even just somehow having like a more regular guest speaker appearance type format in schools where, you can get people that
Yeah.
maybe aren't, it's not a weekly class that they're in, but, every month somebody comes to school and some of the topics are this type of stuff, just really motivating people to think big like this, because I don't think people are even in their teenage years and early 20s, a lot of times even presented with this idea of thinking big or feeling like it's okay to think big and not be embarrassed by your goals, despite what other people might think about them.
Yeah, have former alumni who went to that school come back and just share their story 10, 20, 30 years down the road. Talk about the adversities that they overcame. I think that would be so powerful. When I was when I was in college up in Boulder, and I think you may have been in this class as well, but there was a class where they brought in really successful entrepreneurs, executives, and they just lectured for 2 hours. And so, I mean, we had, like, some just incredible entrepreneurs that came into that class, and I loved it for that reason. Just hearing their story and getting to be around this person, having access to them to ask them questions. I mean, that was, like, so amazing to me.
Yeah, that needs to be a requirement for schools these days, in my opinion.
Alright, well, guess what? That is number 15. So we are done with the 15 lessons I would share with my 20-year-old self. Now, before we wrap up, I do wanna reach out to our listeners and our followers. Um, if you are following us on social media, just share with us one thing that you're doing to improve yourself today. As a reminder, our Instagram is at Pursuit of Progress Podcast. Drop us a comment, share with us how you're improving yourself today. It's all about personal growth, how we're progressing, and that constant daily pursuit of progress.
Well, thanks, guys. We had a really good time the last week and this week wrapping up our 15 things that we would tell our 20-year-old younger selves. Thank you guys. Hopefully, got some value out of this episode today. I thought that some of these that we did today were really on fire. But more than anything else, guys, we just want to make sure that you're remembering the choices you make today can shape your tomorrow. So take these
Yep.
lessons to heart. And if you found any value from this episode, make sure you guys, like Ben said, share with a friend or just leave us a review on Spotify. Hit those little 5 stars. That really helps us boost our organic reach and hopefully find some new audience members to start tuning in on the Pursuit of Progress podcast. As always, guys, my name is Adam, here with my co host, Ben.
Peace out. Have a great week. We'll see you next Friday for the Pursuit of Progress podcast.
See you guys.